Hey there, and welcome to Time to Lean, the podcast where you air your dirty laundry and we help you clean up your shit. I'm Crystal Britt.
And I'm Laura Danger. Think of us as your household secret weapon, taking your questions and voicemails to navigate the wild world of gender norms and household dynamics.
We dive headfirst into the nitty-gritty of how broader social issues impact our everyday lives.
So don't be shy, send us your dirty laundry.
And we'll help you clean up your shit.
This is Time to Lean. Hello, everyone. This is Laura and Crystal. Thanks for being here with us. How are you, Crystal? What's going on with you?
I am doing okay. We are traveling currently, so I am in Tennessee, far from home. We are, what is this, full day 2? We got in Wednesday. Today is Friday. So yeah, we're still doing the adjusting thing, adjusting to time change, adjusting to different routine, different beds, different showers, it's a lot. It's a lot right now, but we're doing okay.
That's great. Every time I think about taking my kids somewhere, I panic. I will spend a week looking up flights and places to go, and I can't.
Yep.
It's a lot.
Yep. It is a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot of like not just the pre-planning, but like then you're like doing stuff on the fly when something doesn't work out and you're not familiar with like where you are or what's available. So you're having to like run, and we're visiting family, or else we like would not be in the middle of central Tennessee. But it's pretty rural out here. So there's that too, where it's like when you have kids who are not super used to everything being at least 20 minutes away in a car, they're like, I'm bored. I'm like, bored is fine. You're safe. Feel bored.
Bored is fine. Bored is really hard as a parent. It's really
very
hard when the kids are bored. A friend of mine, when their kid was like 1.5, they traveled abroad. I think they were in like the Swiss Alps. Like they were somewhere hours from anything. They were like in a cabin, and their kid got a fever.
Oh, nope.
Yeah. And they were like, there's no baby Tylenol.
Nope.
But you know what's interesting is because of their experience, I heard about it. I was like, that is a nightmare I will forever avoid. And I always have a fever reducer on me, always, everywhere I go.
Yep. Because I'm not going to be the one caught without it, because I've heard that story once. That is every anxious mother on the internet. Absolutely.
You know
I've heard that story,
What's
so I'm
funny?
not doing that.
As I'm saying that, I did go somewhere once and I forgot Tylenol. We forgot Tylenol, or the Tylenol was like, it like spilled in the bag even. We had an issue with Tylenol. We were at a Kalahari water park, and our little one in the middle of the night woke up screaming, and she said that her eardrum hurt. There was ear pressure.
Yeah.
And I drove all around Wisconsin. So it was like 11 p.m. Nothing's open. Like you said, like rural. I don't know what stores exist.
Right.
There's a Walmart, but is it a 24-hour Walmart?
Or is it a neighborhood market? Right.
Mm-hmm. So that did bite me in the ass. That I think it spilled. I think that's what happened, because I wouldn't go anywhere without Tylenol.
Because you wouldn't go without it. That has to have been what happened. Or it got tossed in TSA screening or whatever. It's just like 100 different scenarios. And then it's anxiety inducing when you hit that spot and you're like you said, everything here closes at 6, 7. And I'm like, what? We have to drive into the city. Like we have to drive into Nashville like for an hour if we want to do something after 8. Okay. I mean, not that I want to do a bunch after 8, but like, still.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
That's rough. Right. Speaking
Perfect timing.
Speaking of, we got tagged in this We got tagged in this, but what's interesting is I watched the first 10 seconds. It's a video. I watched the first 10 seconds and I sent it to you immediately. I didn't even finish it. So I'm kind of going in a little bit cold here
Oh,
because I did
amazing.
not watch the whole thing.
It's great.
Okay. So I don't even think this person did not put this video on Instagram. So for those of you who are not, you don't put a lot of content out there. Maybe I'm speaking to people who already know this. People who have TikTok are different than people who are on Instagram.
Could you be more specific? Because that's
So
true. I just want for people who are not familiar, I just need for you to clarify.
here's my perception. I'm interested in yours. I will put things on TikTok that I will not put on Instagram because people interact differently on TikTok. And it's changed over the last year, I would say. But generally, people get it. They just like get it. They get that you're like you're not trying to drag anyone through the mud. You're just like, oh, okay, this is a shared experience. Let's talk about it. A
Yeah.
lot more on TikTok versus on Instagram. It's a little bit more like, I want you all to see me say this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, yes, I agree. I think that Instagram is more like marketing and branding
Mhm.
yourself as an entity. And TikTok is much more, I feel like this is kind of a broad statement because I feel like people who are on Instagram are also chronically online. But the term chronically online for me is defined as people who are like online for creative communities. So like people who are on Tumblr like in their teens and early 20s are usually the people who are more likely to be on TikTok because they're looking for like like you said, like they get it. They have enough experience with capital I internet than
Mhm.
regular customers do. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
TikTok's more that way. So yes, it is much more like, hey, this is a shared experience. I'm sharing it. Like, let's have a discussion about it, as opposed to Instagram, where it's like, hey, here's this. Follow me for more.
Yeah. And there's an assumption of, I think the approach to context is different. On TikTok, I feel like maybe there's a little bit more assumption like, okay, maybe we aren't getting a whole picture. Um, like,
There's much more space for that nuance.
yeah, it kind of feels like you're coming in the middle of a conversation. So
Yeah.
if you don't get it, like what are you talking about? I'm
Yeah.
gonna scroll. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be like, this is not for me.
Right.
Um, if I want to stop and engage, I'm gonna linger in the comment section. I'm gonna think about it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
100%.
so this person put it on TikTok just for a little bit of context. So that's what we're coming to. Okay, I'm gonna play it.
I'm on family vacation right now with my 2 teenagers and my husband. We flew in late last night. I think we got in at like 12:15 a.m. and headed to get a rental car and then got to our Airbnb. And I am frustrated. So, as a mom, I planned everything. I asked for input probably 50 times, things they wanted to do. Do they have any input on where they want to stay, where they want to eat, anything, any input? And everyone just said the same thing. Nope, nope, we're good. We're good. Whatever you want, mom. I don't care. Okay, I don't care. Great. Glad I'm planning this vacation for everybody to not care. But I digress. So, when we got to the rental car counter, the car that I selected would not have fit all our luggage. So ultimately, we decided to upgrade, but not without comments about how mom is so cheap and she got a small car and this and that. I didn't. I got an SUV, but it was like the small SUV, so it doesn't hold as much. Okay, no problem. We upgrade. We get to the Airbnb, and I didn't realize this. I mean, you don't know until you get here, but there are 3 stories. It's a lot of stairs. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of stairs. And sleeping arrangements are not like perfect slash ideal, but they're fine. Everybody has a bed. We're safe, whatever. Oh my God, mom is never going to be in charge of booking the Airbnb again. Like she can't even, this, that, and the other. Then this morning, we wake up and it's an urban setting. We live in a very quiet suburban setting, and my husband's saying how he barely slept and this and that. And I'm just like, enough. This is our first day. We're barely here. I have been the only one to put in all the effort in planning this trip. And I know there's videos on mental load, but like this is prime time example of me shouldering the mental load for my entire family, and everybody has something to say about it. So yeah, I'm frustrated. Please pray for me that we can all turn our attitudes around and have a great day.
What came up for you?
Okay, well, first, since you haven't seen the whole video, that's your first time seeing that whole video. What are your initial thoughts?
Honestly, I want to say that like in my household, the division of labor is so different than it was several years ago. And easily, if anyone asked me, like, do you feel like you have an equitable division of labor? I would not hesitate to say yes, definitely. Like, depending, our lives ebb and flow, we compensate for one another. Just this morning, Jack was like, "Ah, man, there's a lot of dishes. I'm really sorry about that." And I was like, "You're sorry. I haven't touched them in 2 days." Like, both of us are very much in the midst of a lot going on in professional life, and like, and I was like, I haven't started the laundry since last Friday because we were out of town last week. Like, you know, we can communicate about it effectively, all that. What even before when like even when we did when we were navigating maybe me doing more, managing more, or like giving lists and things like that, I don't think I fully connected it to what this woman is saying. Like, I see a difference between what this woman is talking about and the division of actual labor. And I think she touches on like this hidden element that didn't really come up for me until we started to dig into things more in depth. So, like, even as the time and actual physical labor adjusted, this part still fell on me. And it, I think it took a while for me to properly communicate what that aspect of the pressure was about. I think she does a really good job of capturing like it's not just the planning and the scheduling, because that's a part of the mental load that we talk about.
Right.
Like, even when you're like, hey, can you book that? Hey, can you manage the kids' doctor's appointments? Even when that's taken care of, this part of like, I've been paying such close attention to what's going on in the household, and I'm going to do my best. The consequences of me not doing that bite me in the ass later. I feel really responsible. I feel resentful of trying really hard and it not being appreciated. It's like an aspect that still wasn't solved until later.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fully solved. Like, I don't think that's a fully solved issue in my household, because that's like the mess of being in a relationship, is this showing up in care in all these ways and appreciating it and communicating that. But I guess lots came up for me when I watched this. And I think that I'm glad she said it. I'm glad she made this video. There's so much there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that's a really interesting point that you made, saying that the equitable distribution of labor in a household feels like a different piece to what she's communicating here. Because like, as you were talking about that, I'm thinking there are still things that come up for me that, like, when Ben and I will talk about them, where I'm like, hey, this is like old resentment. Like, these are feelings coming up from having done this for a really long time. And it has helped when he has acknowledged, what were we doing? We went to Disneyland with my sister. This was like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And one of the kids said, and he had said, like, I'm going to pack a backpack with snacks and like other things. So we each had a backpack that we had packed. And one of the kids asked for something, and I said, oh, well, I didn't bring that. Like, I don't have it. And Ben said, oh, well, I packed it. And he pulled something out, and I just like looked at him and was like, I can't believe, like, it was something that like I could have anticipated had I had more time to prepare. But for him to have done that, he sat down and like was like, okay, what do I need through like running through the day? What are the kids, what are the spaces that I feel like are missing? And came in clutch with something that I did not have and that the kids needed and made their lives, run more smoothly or whatever that day. And that is new. That is new. Like having that level of, it's almost like I have to work on healing from all of that resentment that I carry from having held all of the mental load for so long without realizing it. And then he has to step up with skill acquisition to be able to practice noticing and preparing ahead of time, and not like he has in the past, keeping a meeting until 45 minutes before we leave for the airport, right? Like it's like, nope, you can't do that anymore. And without me having to say anything, not doing that. So yeah, I think that it is a very, very resonant experience for a lot of people who are socialized as female, who are mothers, who find themselves going on vacation. And then the added mental load of people. My kids are not old enough yet to complain about that stuff specifically. But I would have been pissed.
Yeah. And it's not even just like, I feel like when they're younger, it's, you pay for it. If you don't prepare ahead of time, you pay for it. And we talked about this on another episode about like planning and packing ahead. Cause like, if you didn't pay attention how close something is, like with the, I don't know where the closest grocery store is, so I don't know how I'm going to get this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Every time we leave the house, we pack like 5 things that we know the kids are going to eat and plan on eating there. If not, at least there's a backup. But I think that this is, I'm going to take the other angle on this too, because in a situation like this where it's like, hey, what do you want to order? Hey, what do you want to order? And then one person has to order for, it lands on one person. If you order something that no one will eat, people are like, what the fuck? Like, you did a bad job.
Right.
There's the pressure of you did a bad job, and that feels bad.
Right.
There is a lot of conversation going on about the care and consideration and the mental load and all of that. And what I'm sure you have heard and what I have heard is, okay, but what about the pressure of having to pay the bills? What about the pressure of going to work? And this is where I actually do think that that's comparable, because people, if you feel the pressure of creating experiences for your family, like having a great summer, I want to create a summer where my kids have a lot of fun. I want to create these experiences. If I don't do that, they're going to grow up and not think fondly of us. Like that's a ton of pressure to put on someone. I want this vacation to be good. I want you to enjoy it. Things like that. There's a ton of pressure. And if you don't do the emotional and mental labor behind it, it kind of, it might fall apart. It might not be good. And there is a lot of invisible pressure at work when you are the one who is managing the finances, or feeling a pressure to, to have status, to feel financially secure.
Maintain a what is it called? A something of living, standard of living. Yeah.
And it's like, I want you to have opportunities. I don't want you to feel held back financially. And I have to do all of these things, or I have to keep track of the taxes, maintain the house, and you don't notice it, or whatever it is. That is also a lot of pressure. Like there is a lot of invisible pressure happening on all sides. And it would be worth acknowledging all around.
Right. And not just, so you're saying not just in this instance regarding like planning memory, like making memories for the family, but also like acknowledging like the financial like strain and pressure. Like that is also a very real invisible mental load that primary earners in their family hold. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great point to talk about how both of those things can be held at the same time, or like be held like in an equitable way. And also trying to figure out, I do think, we've changed the way we talk about vacations in our household because of framing them more around what our values are as a family, as opposed to what we feel like we should be doing as parents with our kids. Because I am neurodivergent and because my kids are neurodivergent, it's a lot of stimulation for, an entire, I mean, the flight was 4 hours and 30 minutes. Like, it's a long flight. And a lot through the airport and, foods and unfamiliar, beds, and trying to figure out like, okay, how long does it need to be in order for it to feel worth it to us? Like, we didn't just spend last year we went to Yosemite, and our youngest, we found out, gets really, really car sick. And we didn't know until until we were on our way in one of the entrances to Yosemite. And we were like, it was rough. It was very, very rough. And so it was like, okay, we're not. And it was like, 100 degrees in Yosemite, not the valley, but above it. And we had a house with no air conditioning. Like, it was bad. So like, we don't necessarily plan our stuff with what we should, with what we feel like we should be doing. We more trying to gear those experiences to like, what do we value as a family? What is worth our time and money, right? Like, when we went to Disneyland with my sister, we didn't stay overnight because we were like, that's not how we want to spend our money for our allotted vacation budget this year. We don't want to do that. So it's just very, I think, I mean, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think I would argue like with the pressure of being a primary earner and those responsibilities, and with the memory making and the magic making with like important events in the family and vacations, like all of, I think that everybody should, if we could spread that pressure out to everybody a little bit more, which might look like for, a primary breadwinner might look like, hey, can you take over auto scheduling these? Like, can you take over bills for this month just to like make sure they all get paid or whatever? You know what I mean? Just like some sort of inklings of a break where possible.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up such an important point, because in the video, she's talking about, like, I asked for input repeatedly and nobody gave it to me. And then I got punished essentially for doing something that they didn't want. And it's like a setup to fail.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, if you can have those conversations about what matters and you're engaging in those conversations about what matters financially, how, like, do you want to take vacations? And when you take vacation, why? What's the purpose? So if we're there to explore a new city, like, can you stop complaining for a minute because I booked us a place in the city because I know that you like little adventures. You don't like to spend money on the car. Like,
right.
And so I think I mean, I'm annoyed for this person that the family is complaining after not giving input. And to me, it reminds me of like, oh no, I'll eat whatever. And then I'll order it. And then the kids are like, I don't like this. It's like, then tell me what the fuck you're going to eat, man. Like, I don't know. I tried. And I mean, that bubbles up inside of me, but I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Now I'm going to take you to the one restaurant that I know that you're going to eat at. And I'm not like, it's like a silent thing where and that's the other thing. That's the other thing is like, what if she wanted to do a different vacation and she made consolations and she made compromises and prioritized things she thought they would like, and then she gets there and they're complaining about it. I would just be seething if I were her.
Oh, 100%. Like, keeping tally marks of like, and like silently seething of like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. Right. It would be like, I'm going to go on vacation by myself and you guys could sit at home and do whatever, 'cause I'm not doing this. Like, I think too, the load of like, oh, I don't care. 'Cause it's not even just that the kids are complaining. It's that they're also like making fun of her and shaming her of like, mom's such an idiot. She can never be in charge of booking the Airbnb again. And it's like, first of all,
good. You're never coming with me on a vacation ever again. Cool.
Yep.
You're not invited.
We're not doing that. Yeah. And it's like having it, and that's so such an interesting point that you said about like having being involved in the conversations about how we spend our finances, how we do vacations, because we talk often on this podcast about how isolating and lonely it can be to be the only parent who's providing full-time caregiving. And I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say we read in a research study that like, and if and when we find it, we'll put it in the show notes, but when partners are willing to have a conversation with the other partner about something, like that facilitates connection and indicates a better outcome for the relationship, because it's not even that you need to be volunteer to be the primary breadwinner. It's not that. It's being in it with them. Well, do you like how's work going? Do you hate your job? Do we need to look at something else? How do you feel? We can adjust our cost of living. That's what it is, not standard of living. We can adjust our cost of living to reflect, I want to make sure that you are, happy and not miserable at your job, and that we, have what we need. Let's talk about it. Let's look at it, because then it's a collaborative approach as opposed to like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I need to stay home and I can't make any money. You know what I mean? Like it becomes more like in Fair Play, where they talk about us versus the task as opposed to us versus each other, right? It becomes a humanized issue as opposed to like stagnant and stuck.
Yeah, I think I recently found somebody was angry at me and tagged me over on Facebook. Facebook is its own social media beast. But somebody tagged me in a picture or a video of like a roofer like hauling a whole bunch of shingles up a sloped roof, and he was like, this is why the conversation about domestic equality is bullshit, because like tell me it's not easier to stay home with kids and fuck around all day, and like men are out here doing shit like this, something like that. And like just what it reminded me of is the silent resentment that happens in relationships, because maybe this guy in the video, like maybe he didn't feel entitled. However, I would suggest that saying you whatever you want and expecting them to then provide an experience that everybody's going to enjoy is an entitlement. And there's just this miscommunication that happens. And also, maybe it's not roofing, but a lot of times people will get defensive and be like, work is so hard. You know how much pressure. That's kind of why I brought this up with the work being a lot of pressure. Yes, it's a lot of pressure. And there should be balance. And if your workplace fucking sucks and you're being exploited, or it's incredibly hard, should you maybe focus on fixing that? Like join a fucking union, or like, do any, try to influence some change in your workplace. Don't be hauling a million shingles. Like that's not safe, man. Figure something else out. Or should you be expecting something like, should you be offloading the exploitation at home onto your partner and opting out and expecting more from them? Or should you be trying to change your circumstances and having open conversations about this? Like what's healthier and what's better for your relationship? Just being like, my work's hard, so yours should be really hard and you should care for me. Or like maybe a different approach.
That's super interesting that you said that, because up until this point, I had never made that connection that like, if you are the primary breadwinner in your work like your workplace sucks and you are being exploited at work, the reason capitalism sucks is because then you bring it home and you are exhausted and you're fucking burnt out and you're tired. And that is 100% valid. What's not valid is to then exploit your partner for the labor that they've been doing all day, demand more of them, burn them out, right? And then, which is the through line from capitalism to generational trauma. But it's so fascinating where, because I also think there's like this, like in workplaces where things are very competitive, or they feel like it's that scarcity mindset of like, it's just not, it's the thing of why we don't get like phone calls ever to be like, can you come do a talk on on equitable work and the validity any corporate gigs where they're not calling us to do a TED Talk for this shit, because this is like this. It's not, you can't exploit these kinds of conversations for money. It's the opposite. Like, you should be paid a living wage or like everyone should be paid that. No, you shouldn't have to fucking kill yourself and sacrifice your body, brain, and future for your fucking company. You die tomorrow, they're going to replace you with somebody else. So like having the uncomfortable conversations at work is going to long-term be much better for your lifespan to have those conversations at home.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the harder approach, right? That's a more challenging approach. What's easier is to be like, I'm tired. It's to just keep up with how it's been.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. People aren't knocking down our door being, they're more like, how can we maximize profits by retaining employees? Which, like, I don't know.
Or how many workers
Okay,
could we lay
yes,
off and pay the remaining employees the same amount of money and just exploit them and burn their families out. Not speaking from personal experience. It's wild. And then you're trying to take a fucking vacation. You know what I mean? It's just like, and you get to a point too where it's like, this is so, I mean, it just perpetuates the cycle, right? Of like, then the person who's planning it feels so much pressure to like make the most of that time, to make the most of those memories and all of that. And it's like, oh my God, I can't. Nope, we're just not going to go on vacation.
Exactly. And I like, it comes down to why are we taking a trip?
Yes.
Why are we taking a trip? If you just wanted me to, like, you could have hired a travel agent to do this for you, or are you here to hang out with me?
Right.
Like, do you want to spend time together? And like, don't neg me, you a-holes.
Yeah, that's such a great point. We're on vacation that I planned. Don't neg me. You could have negged me at home. Neg me at home where I'm not paying for it. You know what I mean? It's like, and
it's so irritating. It's so irritating. I don't know what I want. Oh, not this. It really, I mean, my toddler's going through that right now. She's not a toddler. My kid is going through that right now where I'm like, she's like, I'm hungry. I want a snack. Okay, get one. I don't know what I want. I don't either.
You're the only
no
person who
idea.
lives in that brain. I'm so sorry.
And when I get it for you, are you going to be like, no, I didn't want that?
No, of course. Like, isn't that is that not the standard response? Because that's what my kid does.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Here's also this other layer to it. And I just want to touch on this because I know so many of our listeners are neurodivergent or have neurodivergent children. This is also like what we just talked about just now is like what I would imagine to be like typical for a neurotypical family. You're not even putting a neurodivergent layer on top of it, which is like there are so many, and I don't know if you feel this way, but like the more sometimes and I mean, I think I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but the more unmasking I do, I'm working through how to not make it feel like a liability to continue to do that work because it is so hard. Like I have to go back and like remember like, okay, but remember you would push through this time, but then when you would get home, like you would have a meltdown and cry for a few hours to like get all that pressure out that you had been like building, as opposed to the first day we go and like I was exhausted yesterday because it was the first full day after our travel day. And I'm like adrenaline dumping, like, cause my hypervigilance is just like on it for that whole travel day on a plane. I don't like flying. And so then there's an adrenaline dump. And then I have to also factor in the kids and their sensory needs, their, overloads and overstimulations and, alone, all that stuff, accommodations, all that comes before mine. Or I try to, right? I try my best to be. And then my husband's like, what? I don't, my poor husband's like, I'm trying to figure out what's happening. How can I help? And I'm like, I don't know. We're all on fire. Get everybody earplugs and a screen, please. Like and water. We all need to drink water. But like that on top of it is it's so much. It's so much. on top of something that's already time consuming and an emotional drain.
And you know what? Like thinking back to what this brought up for me in the beginning and what I think trying to say about money and like the similarities in the pressures of being the breadwinner is like, it is a bit comparable to, no, I don't care how much you make. And then being like, could you not have made a little bit more?
Or like, why can't we afford that? Yeah. Like, why can't we just do that?
No, I don't care how much you make. Our house is small, like, and then complaining about it later, or just like the casual commentary of you're not working hard. Your job's kind of shitty. Like it's a little bit embarrassing that your job's not so good.
Or like,
And
hey, we're going to this dinner. Could you just like not talk about what you do? Yeah.
yeah. Just, I wish you had a better job. It is, I imagine in this situation here, she's on vacation. She created this experience for everyone. Her effort is not being seen.
Yeah.
Th-
Or
It's just all
acknowledged.
invisible.
Yep.
And like,
Acknowledged at all.
you know how hard it is. Like I said, like how many times have I spent an entire week researching what place I want to go? I'll look at Legoland and I'll be like, okay, this is like $1,200 for a couple of nights. The flight is going to be 2.5 hours. How much can my kid tolerate? How many hours at
Yep.
the airport? What are the hours? Which going through all of that and then at the end being like, why? Why am I doing this?
For what? Yeah.
And then like there's so many details. And honestly, what it comes down to is we usually just like go overnight to Michigan. Because why am I
Right.
doing this?
Because it makes more sense. Right.
Because it's fun and we want to go to the beach and we want to enjoy ourselves and relax and be connected and it's not as stressful and this is rejuvenating and it's memory making. And so like, I don't, it, there are just, we've come to that conclusion from talking about it.
Yes, which is very interesting because we have gone through the same process. And my thing is that if we go local, I am 100 times more likely to be like, let's just go home. Like, let's just go home. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. If I like, we had to fly here, my ass is not going home until the 18th. Do you know what I mean? Like, like we're stuck here. It's like, it almost like takes that choice out of my brain. But if we go down, to the beach or wherever, I'm like, let's just call it. Because they get activated in misery. My distress tolerance when we travel, so low. I have to work on it as a skill if we do not have the ripcord of going home. You know what I mean? Like I have to work at it. I have to accommodate myself. I have to make sure I stay on top of everything I'm supposed to do to take care of myself in order to do that. Or else I'm just like, let's just go back to our routines in our home. They had fun. They had fun for 15 minutes. So let's go home now. Like mission accomplished.
I feel like after like if I put myself in the shoes of this person who made the video, and maybe this is a pattern, maybe it's happened before, or maybe this is just a big enough feeling to create change in the future. If it continues to be that the family didn't give input and then complains when she puts thought into something and it doesn't turn out to their liking, I truly would not go on a vacation with my family again.
Yeah.
I would go by myself. I would enjoy the plans that I make for myself.
Yep.
And if they want to plan something, I'd show up.
Yep. I would just
And
show
bitch
up on
and
my
moan.
own.
No, I'm just kidding. I'd be petty as fuck.
I complain about everything. Yeah.
Every single thing. No, may or model the experience that you want.
Yeah, that
Not be
you would
petty.
hope that they would have. Yeah, that it's so yes, because I think too, like again, how you talked about like going through the motions of like, what is this for? What are we doing this for? Right, and make it a family conversation. Hey, how do you feel like the last vacation went? Because I feel like it did not. Here's how I left feeling. Right, like I didn't like this because also the end of the video got me when she's like, please pray for us that we will be able to turn our attitudes around and make the most of the day. Like, I hate those days. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, everybody just like, can we all just like, pick it up and turn it around? Like, it's just such a shitty feeling to have as a person who like arranged for everything that it's like, oh, can we just like make this a mediocre day? I tried to put everything in place so it was an amazing day, but clearly you guys aren't having it. So could we at least like make it an okay day and not the worst day of my vacation?
Okay, you say that, and immediately I thought about emotional labor because if she was tasked with creating a certain environment for the family, she's pissed.
Yep.
That's
Mm-hmm.
valid. That her
Yep.
feelings are hurt.
Yep.
And in order to not be punished
Yep.
for it more, she now has
Mm-hmm.
to be like, all right, guys, let's rally. Let's have a
Yep.
good time. Even though you hurt
Mm-hmm.
my fucking feelings and I'm
Yep.
not having very much fun, but who fucking
Yep.
care?
Yep. But I have
I
to put on a
imagine
face now.
the
Mm-hmm.
internal turmoil is like, and how that's such a recipe for resentment to be
Yep.
like, I can't even tell you how upset I am right now and hurt by what you just said to me because I want to continue to enjoy this experience. And now I have to
Yep.
put your feelings above mine to even enjoy this.
Yep. To enjoy it, period. Yep. Absolutely. It's a no-win situation when you are put in that position of like,
No.
oh, I don't care what we're at. I don't care, what we do. It's like, okay,
Solo vacation next time. That's the
solo
answer.
vacation. Absolutely. Use that money to do something you want to do if no one's going to
Yeah,
help you plan it.
that's
Totally valid.
disappointing. It's disappointing. And you know what's so like, it is, I'm imagining this 3-story place and it's in maybe not ideal sleeping conditions. And it's like when I go places like that, it's kind of fun. The chaos is a little bit fun.
It's different.
Be nice to your mom. Be nice to
Well,
your mom,
and here's
guys.
and here's the other thing, just as like last little note. Here's the other thing. There is a way that you can like if those kids or that partner doesn't like that Airbnb, there are steps that they can take to change that. But to be like, I hate this. And then to like put it on the mom, because we've stayed at an Airbnb before, or we've rented a place before to stay where they told us there were no pets that had been in that space because my
Right.
husband's allergic to cats and our kids are allergic to cats. And he sat in one chair and it was very clear that like that's the chair the cat sits in. And so he started to have like an allergic reaction like after like a night. And we were like, hey, we can't stay here. Like we need to be refunded. We it was an hour from the house, so we went home. But like it was like we can't, we need to be refunded for that and then find a different place to stay. Like, is it gonna be last minute? Yeah. But you didn't invest the first time to say that you had a preference. So if it bothers you enough, you do that work. That mom's gonna be out, wherever at the beach all day, or she's gonna be out looking at coffee shops and bookstores. But you're gonna do that labor if you're gonna complain about it. She's
I
already
think
done
that
what she was
that's,
supposed to do.
yeah, I think that that's really the key here because it's like, I mean, I've been frustrated with myself. I don't think it's like wrong to be irritated or be like, oh, this is not ideal, or, I
Yeah.
slept like crap. It's the blame
Yes.
without any accountability for like, I no, I didn't give you any feedback. I didn't help.
Yep.
I'm just annoyed that you did a bad job. Or it's like an
Yeah.
accusation of, couldn't you've done a better?
Yes. And that's interesting that you should say that because it brings up a rule that we had in some class in high school where it was like you cannot point out a problem without suggesting a solution was the
Mm.
rule, which like I'm now realizing like Ben and I have adopted and kept going in our family of like you can't complain about something if you don't have an alternative solution, because if you're just complaining to complain, you're doing that to hurt somebody. You're doing that on purpose to
Mm.
try and like make them feel like shit about what happened. Otherwise you would do it internally. Right. So like if you're out loud complaining about something, you need to have a suggestion about how you could help solve it. Um, because it's not fair to just pile on somebody like that. So like if you're
That's
just keep your mouth shut
interesting.
if it bothers you.
Yeah, it's like, what is the thing you say? Like, don't talk about somebody's appearance if it's not something you can, like, if there's spinach in their teeth, you can tell them. But if it's
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yes, yes, yes. If it's not something they can change, don't why would you
yeah.
say anything about it? Yeah.
So I'm trying to like apply that to this situation with the 3-story place is like, I don't know. Would you be like, oh man, I'm sorry I didn't look at these. I had like, I it's like,
In
oh, I
her
didn't give
case, no,
input.
absolutely not. Like in her case, absolutely not. If that woman apologizes to anyone in her family, it's gonna I'm gonna make some phone calls. Like there's not anything to apologize for, right? Where it's
Okay.
like,
I think like the kids, if the kids were like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
you did an annoying job.
mm-hmm.
If they can't solve the problem, don't complain about it. But maybe like, could the husband, if he wanted to complain about it, be like, no, in that scenario, it just makes her
Unless
feel
they're
bad.
willing, yes, unless they're willing to be like, you know what, I it's the thing of like they would have to have done any sort of research on their end. I've seen this before. I know how to do oh, this place is not going to work for us. Cool. I know how to do a refund. I've already scoped out a different place. We can book it for the same price. Like they would have to have done all of the labor as well, or they can apologize for not participating. You can
Yeah.
complain and say, next time I'm going to help you. I know that I was, slammed with work, and I'm sorry I didn't say that I had a preference. I actually didn't. Sometimes too, we get into a place where I didn't realize it was going to be a preference until I get into that space. So I make a mental note of like, okay, next time I need to remember that when we book an Airbnb, I like either one of us, whoever's tasked with it, we need to remember this because this was like kind of a thing we keep bumping into, right? But I don't just go, you booked a place without an in-unit laundry and dryer or a washer and dryer? Like what's the deal? You know what I mean? Like it's I have to own some of that if I'm going to bitch about it.
Right. I think that's the thing is okay. So it's like, oh, the sleeping arrangements kind of blow here. Man,
Mhm.
mom, you suck. There's like
Right.
that, or this is not ideal. They did not advertise this on the Airbnb
Yes.
and then there's like, I wonder if there's a blow up mattress somewhere in one of these closets. There's,
Mhm.
uh, I'll trade you tomorrow and you have that, like coming to it and being like, is there anything we can do about this right now? Because this is not
Yes.
ideal.
Mhm.
Or it's like waiting until you're done with the vacation till the next one. Like you said, to be like,
Yes.
I'm going to make a note that I really should have spoken up earlier or participated because that sucked. And
Yes.
I'm going to appreciate how much work they put into it for me and my family.
Mhm.
Or just like, it just
Mhm.
sounds like they were complaining to complain and
Mhm.
not being nice
Yeah.
about it.
Yes, just complaining to complain for no purpose other than to complain about it. Like
And
not to
that
fix it,
to
not to work
me
on it. Mhm.
feels like entitlement.
Yes, 100%. That's a great point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Coming in with this expectation that things are going to be a certain way without having participated in the process at all, and then complaining about the choices that were made.
Mm-hmm.
Super fun.
Annoying. So annoying. So annoying. Be nice, everyone. Be nice to your adult who booked stuff for you, please.
Yeah, be nice to the adult who is booking events to try and make your life fun. And like as I say that, I need to apologize to my mom who would take us every year to a beach house for a week. And as a teenager, I know that I would bitch about how the reception was bad and I was not like I didn't have any friends. I was without my friends for a week.
Oh
And
yeah.
thanks for not
Oh
killing
yeah.
me.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. Same. My mom was saying she was listening to this episode where I was talking about like all the packing she did. And so I'm just gonna podcast is gonna be about me apologizing to her and noticing now.
It's a big deal, especially when my mom worked outside of the house full time plus, and the oldest of 6 children. So like doing that shit that was a hard earned week, and I would just be like, wish I was back at home with my friends, which like age appropriate, but still like Jesus
You know
Christ.
what? Maybe your mom should have traveled by herself, taken a nice vacation
Mm-hmm.
by herself.
She and my stepdad would have enjoyed a luxurious vacation by themselves, and they would have been well
They
within their rights
deserved
too.
it.
They
Yeah,
deserved
exactly.
it.
That's what I'm saying. They
So
deserve
now,
time.
so now they are currently house sitting and dog sitting for me, which is like the most gracious thing. And when we're like, hey, do you want to watch the kids for a date night? And they're like, actually, we're going to dinner at this really nice place. I'm like, bye, have fun,
Good for you.
bye.
Enjoy.
Thanks. I will never ask you to watch any children ever again. Thank you so much for all you do. It's a whole thing. Well, you guys can find us on Instagram and Patreon. If you want to listen to these episodes ad-free, you can join Patreon for $5 a month, but you can also join for free and get some of our extra content. We have our July Time to Read book club coming up. That is totally free. And we're reading Let This Radicalize You, which is an incredible book that I am not quite finished with yet, but it is so good. And we would love to have you. So you can sign up on our website, timetoleanpod.com.
Awesome. We'll see you next time. Listen to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Time to Lean. Your questions and stories are what keep us going, so keep those voicemails and messages coming.
Until our next episode, remember that you can always find us on social media and, of course, in your podcast feed. You can also subscribe for $5 a month on Spotify for uninterrupted episodes and bonus content.
We're so grateful for your support. See you next time.